Hello, travellers, and welcome to another edition of the Pro Wrestling Journey. And in today's episode, we're going into part 3 of our conversation with the sin of professional wrestling, the beautiful Bruiser, Molly Spartan, or as John likes to say, wrestling royalty.
So if I'm wrestling royalty, what's Ric Flair?
See, you don't want to talk Ric Flair with me because I've got an unpopular opinion. But
I mean, like, it doesn't matter if you don't like him. Like, he's the godfather of wrestling. If you were going to do, like, the godfather with wrestlers, Flair's the godfather. Like, no matter if you think he's shite or no, you can't.
You've got to hand him that. Like, the man's been in the business for longer than God.
The whole attitude, proper promo gimmick persona of just being a person and not being a ultimate warrior. You know what I mean? Like, Ric Flair, even though he was obnoxious and flamboyant, he was still just a man. He wasn't like, I'll hulk up or I'll be this or I'll get the powers. He was just like, I'm the da. Right? That was Ric Flair.
And apparently
that's why him and Dusty worked so well, because Dusty was just a man and Flair was just a man, and that's why you were like, yeah. So yeah, what's that? Who's Flair? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, Flair's got obviously Charlotte and that as well.
You've definitely got to be on the Mount Rushmore. John thinks he's basically he's always had the same match.
He's a one-trick pony in my book. It's just
then. Okay, so is Warrior in that? Is Hulger in that? Is like are all like is essentially the 80s in that and the 90s and the majority of indie matches these days? Like, you can't like you've clearly got a gripe with him. There's something personal that you don't like about him, and then you've heightenedly noticed that, and that's what you've zoned in on. I said that for years with Randy Orton, and then I realised, oh wait, okay, I'll shut my mouth. Like, there's an understanding of
this could be that moment.
But usually you find people say that when they just don't like him.
I was never a huge Flair fan, and I must admit, the older he got, the more I got to like him, because we got to see more of who Ric Flair was, and that's kind of what I'm about.
You got to see more of. I think Ric Flair is one of the only people that like is legit, if that makes sense. Like,
he lives
there was
the life.
Videos of him. Did you not see the videos of him hanging out with like a bunch of hip hop artists at UFC?
No.
There's like him with like champagne, and he's pure like hanging in with like, I think it's Snoop Dogg took him in, but it was like a group. It's weird. Ric Flair is a guy, although he's an old white man, right? For some reason, he's got this unbelievable connection to like the black sort of community in America in particular. Like, for some reason, they super like connect with Ric Flair, which is
songs about him as well. They've done like Ric Flair drips.
Ric Flair drip is a thing, and like, yeah, it's like a proper, like, they have like essentially adopted him as like their guy, which is mad because he's a big old white man.
You can't really deny it though. Like, love him or hate him, if you take Ric Flair into a room, everybody's going to know who that guy is.
Have you ever seen the video? There's some like, they did, remember when they did the prank show and they had Ric Flair, and like it was meant to be like the security guard were bombing him up in his car with like his bit of paper, and they're going, what's your name? And he's like, Ric Flair, and he's like, sorry, I can't find it. Like, how do you spell that? Anyway, FAMOUS, and I was like, yeah.
I never seen that, but I'll find it. He comes up with these nuggets all the time.
Famous tell, and I was like, that is so Ric Flair, and he does not know there's a camera on him or anything, and it's like, that's how you want Ric Flair to be.
Oh, I don't know. I was always a Warrior fan, by the way. I was
like BT Gunn, biggest Warrior fan. Like, he loves Warrior, Wolfie loves Hogan, right? And that's like their thing. But yeah, I was like, I like Roddy Piper. Cool. I'll go for the dude that can talk and is talented and isn't a weird looking. Like, yeah.
I never realised until just recently that Piper could actually play the pipes.
Oh yeah, he was like ranked at one point. He's like second or third best in the world. He plays a mean, like he played a mean harmonica. Like yeah. Like I did like shows with him when just before he passed, and like he would sit and it was like horrible, man. He was nervous about playing in front of people, and I had to be like, just play to me. So I'd always sit at the front, and he'd look at me and he'd play, and I'd just think you're playing to me. It's fine. It's just me. Just me, Papa Piper, talk to me. And but yeah, he would just come on and then he'd play a bit and everybody would be like, holy shit, because he just it was great.
Fantastic.
So because I've always been straight edge my whole life, I've never drank. Weirdly, I've managed and ran bars for years and did that sort of. That was easy to do while I was wrestling and sort of trying to, because then I was able to be in charge and going, well, I'm off this Saturday. You'll get, I'm going to be here, but sort of thing. So did that for ages. But when I was like 13, a friend of mine had asked, what would it take for you to drink? And I genuinely said, I'm saving it for a proper celebration. I'll drink if Scotland gets independence. Right. Like I'll have a night where I drink if I get Scotland gets independence. So that's now become a story that got passed through on my pals. So, but then it ended up getting passed through other pals. So now it's a thing where I think I could sell tickets to me getting my first drink. Like
I've bought one.
The amount of people that were just like, wait, we might see you drunk. There's like, I had mates messaging me that I had spoken to for years, just going, well, you know how I'm voting. And I was like, what? Like, I've got mates who are loyal SNP supporters now because they want to see me drink.
That sounds awesome.
Loyal, vote SNP every single time because they want to see me getting steaming. And I was just like, that's the what. I said it when I was so young, and I'm just like, fuck, because I'm a person that if I say, yeah, I'll do it, like that's what I'll do. I just can't not stick to my word. So I think there's Wolfie, like he'll have a drink, like it's usually rum. Spiced rum is his his
he and I'll get on just fine.
Spiced rum, and he likes a White Russian. He's a fan of a White Russian.
I used to think that was vodka and milk. And I tried it, and it's no. Don't try it, people.
No, I used to work. So I worked in Lebowski's, which was is the biggest and most popular. It's basically the White Russian bar of Europe.
Right.
It's got a whole menu just of White Russians, and White Russians is my forte. Like I can go through your cupboards and make you a White Russian of some kind. I'm very useful at parties because I'll never drink your drink, but I can make you tasty ones. I'm perfect. That's why I was a good bar manager as well, because I knew how to get everybody drunk. I just didn't drink, so I'd be able to count the money. And there was many times we used to do like Hogmanay and stuff, and I'd be off shift, go back in and end up back on shift because I was like, everybody's fucked. I can't even deal with this and managing it.
Quite right.
But I'm just getting, obviously I think numbers must be coming through because I'm getting folk new messaging about it. And I'm like, oh, okay.
The reason I was asking is because I'm going to move on to live shows at some point. And I intend to be at the next one. So as a wee thank you, I brought you a bottle. Because all the best distilleries are just on my doorstep. But if you don't drink, they're not going to be much use to you.
But if you did bring gin, then I know Veronica and Jen would appreciate it.
I'll see what I can do with that.
Just let you know. I just be like, hey, John gave me this, but it's for you to drink.
The next ICW live show, I'll make the trip and I'll bring some stuff with me.
Good. And, lovely.
I'll get it to you.
It has been announced, hasn't it, when tickets are on sale just now?
I think so, Shugs, the 25th of July.
We'll go with that. I think so.
My question is actually, when will the next ICW event be when there's fans in attendance? And do you, we know the answer to this one, but do you intend to be on the card?
Fuck yeah. Sorry. Oh, that was a genuine real. But yeah.
I'm right.
Yeah, of course. Like, but yeah, 20. Who's party 7?
I think it's June.
7. No, 25th of July. 25th of July. My first match back with a crowd is going to be the 26th of June, which is at TNT in Liverpool. But ICW is the 25th of July. That's why I started going,
I've never been to an ICW show, by the way.
Oh, that's going to be interesting because you're going to like it slowly integrate. Like it's like a slow. So you've started watching it with no fans, then you're going to watch it with some fans, and then eventually you'll watch it with all the fans.
And I fully intend to be there.
It's the Lion's Den. It's the Lion's Den of professional wrestling, because my God, if you are crap, they will tell you. They're like sometimes a very kind crowd, other times the most brutal. The only thing I think I've ever seen that was more brutal than ICW is live and live, like Live and Loud at the Fringe. It's a late night comedy club that starts at 1 a.m, finishes at like 5, 6 in the morning. That is the Lion's Den of the Fringe. I have seen somebody try to glass Russell Brand on stage. It smashed and ended up stabbing another comedian in the leg when it shattered. I seen somebody. I seen Russell Howard get 3 people up on stage to give their reasoning to why they should get David O'Doherty's bike. Gave it to a boy who had never had a bike because his parents had died when he was young, and then got crowd surfed on the shoulders while on the bike out the venue to go and cycle. It was one of the most lunacy things I've ever seen. It is either hilarious or it's torture, and that's the fun. That's the most thing I've ever Live and Loud's Late and Live is incredible to go and see, but it can be a lot. I was in a show where I'm going to say bad words. I'm sorry, Mum, but a guy called Brendan Burns, big wrestling fan, was on stage and he was talking away, yada yada yada. And there was this group of boys came in, and they were like a rugby team, but they were very English, right? I just remember them being very, very English, and them being like, "Brr," and they just started shouting crap to the stage. And Brendan stopped and said, "Go and shut up, you Scottish wanker," right? And I remember getting really offended at this, and I just stuck my hand up, I just stuck my hand up, and he was like, "Is this a lesson? Why have you got your hand up?" I was like, "Hey, they're not Scottish. They're just a bunch of wankers." And he was just like, "Thank you very much." It was a change. Okay, I retract the Scottish part. That's unfair. I was like, yeah, I'm not getting wrapped in with them. They're assholes.
Don't tar me with that brush.
They're not. Excuse me. No, not a chance.
You decent.
The reason why it goes on so late is they put on a band, a comedy band, which was started by Bill Bailey and a bunch of other comedians. It's incredible. I would highly recommend it. It's if you go to the Fringe, you can actually spend the entire day just going to shows, eating and drinking. You start off with a show maybe midday, and then you keep going to see other shows, and then you end up at Late and Live. They even do there's actually there's the wrestling show, which is a comedy wrestling show, and I've seen such Ashland B. Do you know Ashland B?
I have.
Yeah, there's loads of folk I've seen in this wrestling show, which is just nonsense. But it's nonsense for a wrestling fan. It's just nonsense. But I so desperately want to be on the show. Like, just because I'm like, worked to the Fringe and I love the Fringe and I went to this show and it was so much fun, and part of me is just like, I so want to be on this. So like I've said to so many of my community pals, like, just going to be on London. Like, I'll just do the show. Just let me in, it's fine. Like, but yeah, sorry, I have no idea how. ICW, so you're coming to ICW for your first time.
I am indeed.
Which will be great fun. It's going to be very different. I'm very interested to see what it is, because obviously we've had to adapt to wrestling in front of nobody. And then we're going to have to adapt to wrestling in front of some people in a different environment. Because it's not going to be the same as like a normal ICW where everybody's like touching shoulders and things like that. But
I think the days are done for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's too long. There's definitely the light at the end of the tunnel.
I got vaccinated today, by the way.
Oh, well, I got my first vaccine on the 1st of April, so I'm due my second one.
I got my first one today. I'm still doing okay. Arm's a bit tingly, but I'm getting on.
Oh, that's you're animal for a couple of days, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm a big lad.
Yeah.
Quick question about wrestling at funny shows, because we actually did security at Belladrum frequently, him and I. Did you wrestle up there, or were you there?
There has still not been a single women's match on Belladrum yet.
Really? You need to get that changed.
So Belladrum, get your fire out and get a women's match on the cult. Because I go up with Wolfie to the festival. It's an incredible festival, but they have still to have a women's match on the cult.
Well, I shall bring that up with the guy who does security, knows the guy who organises it. I don't know any of them. I just turn up and stand there and look mean.
Good. We want a bigger tent because we always have a packed out crowd, and we want a women's match. They are the requirements. We're coming into a new normal. So the new normal should always have a women's match.
Absolutely. And for the standard of women's matches that I've seen out of you and your companions, co-workers, let's go with that. Absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be on every card.
Yeah. We're wrestlers at the end of the day. It doesn't matter our gender. Like, we all perform, we all do the same trait. Like, so Sean can obviously back this, but every woman that walks through that door and goes to training does exactly the same as every single guy does. There's no special excuse or special class. Like, they are treated exactly the same. Like, there's no like, okay, well, you don't do that because you're a girl. No. That's probably why I'm very much like full-blown GPWA, because it doesn't, like, I'm so used to just getting in with the boys and training the same way. That's how I'm going to perform.
I think the ideal place, I don't doubt for 1 second, you've said it yourself, Molly Spartan is the uncrowned ICW Women's Champion. I think the logical place to win that title would be the next big event with fans in, the house party. Who do you want to be standing across the ring for when you get there?
Oh, I mean, doesn't really matter, does it? Because I'm still going to go out with that championship.
That goes without saying.
That is true.
I've got a couple of non-wrestling questions for you, and I'm hoping you see the connection. I have heard your dad's story about Lemmy on the train.
Yeah.
Do you have any of these stories?
See, I once, the Fringe is where I've met and I've got a lot of my strange, weird, famous people stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I got in a fight with Paul Daniels once in the street about jelly beans, and Dave Gorman came and helped me get away from him. I'm
nowhere on that.
Right. So the company that I was working for was a company called Baby Wants Candy. Jesus, my brain has gone to absolute much. Baby Wants Candy. So they were an improvised comedy troupe from America, from all over. And they would like genuinely improvise an entire musical in one night from just the title alone from somebody in the audience. They are absolutely incredible. Sell out shows every Fringe. Like they're just an incredible talent and very talented bunch. But I was sort of helping with like their promotional stuff and stuff like that. And part of that was you'd hand out flyers on the strip and etc. etc. But they got sponsored by Jelly Belly, which is the wee jelly beans, all the flavoured jelly, right? So at the beginning of the Fringe, we'd get a van that was just full of them and then thrown us. It was mad, right? So we ended up building like beds and bars and forts and everything with these boxes of jelly beans. But I remember, so there's two occasions of it. So I was on the strip that went between the venue and one of the ticket boxes. And I was on there and I was trying to fly. And then Paul Daniels appeared and I was like, hey, and we were sharing the same dressing room. So we were always the show after Paul Daniels was on. So he was in the same venue. And what would happen is we'd all gather before the show started, we had these big bowls full of jelly beans in the dressing room, and then we'd all go up to the back where production was and watch it for there. But Paul ended up realising what was going on, and I went to give him it, and he went, you, and I was like, what? And he was like, you keep leaving sweeties in my dressing room, and I'm struggling to get into my suits now because I've eaten so many. And he's just shouting at me, and he's genuinely dressed like the man from Del Monte, white big hat, full white suit, and he's just giving me, and I'm going, well, don't eat them. We need them for flying, and like they're being our sweeties. And he's like, but they're just there, and I come back and I'm sweating and I need something and it's there, and I keep getting he's pure. And at that moment, honestly, God, Dave Cormack goes back, and I don't know why, but I sneakily just go, hey Dave, do you want to come on the show? And I go, and he goes, no, but I want to find out what's happening here. And he's watching us having this argument, and he goes, my show's on at the same time as you, I can't come to your show. I would. Why are you, can we please stop this? And then he was like, why are you shouting at our Paul? And he's like, she leave sweeties. And he's like, don't eat the sweeties. He's like, but it's really hard. And I was like, and then he ends up just going, like, let's hug this. So we end up having a group hug in the middle of Edinburgh. And then he's like, okay. And I was like, I'll put my jacket over the bowl next time. And he's like, okay, that's all I asked for. I was like, right, bye, Paul Daniels. So that was one. There was the other time when John Malkovich was doing a one-man show at the Fringe again. And no, he decided this day, he hadn't been on for like, we'd been on the Royal Mail for weeks. I'd never seen him. And then all of a sudden, he must have just decided, I'm just going to go fly my own show. So he appeared on the Royal Mail. John Malkovich just handed out these flyers to himself. But nobody is believing it that it's actually him.
Cyrus the Virus is on the Royal Mail.
I'm like, that's John Malkovich. And they're like, nah, it must just be somebody that looks like, you must have got a look at it. I was like, no, that is John. I went, check this. I took a bowl of sweeties after them. And I went, John. And he went, yeah. I went, do you want flyer for flyer? I went, hey, mine's coming to a bag of sweeties and things like that. And he was like, oh, yeah. And he was dead sound, and we just chatted about each other's shows, had a wee conversation and stuff like that. And I was like, wait, and I didn't have, like, at that time, like, I had nothing on me, so I didn't even have time to get a photo or anything. I was just like, I'm going to say hi, he's a bowl of sweeties. This is my way of breaking it. So yeah, I ended up having a chat with John Malkovich on the Royal Mail as we ate sweeties and chat about shows and stuff like that, and he was lovely. But no, there's loads that like come to me, and like when I'm talking about things like, oh, mind the time you pulled him out of water, or mind the time that you ended up putting, you ever watched right, so one of my favourite shows is Bob's Burgers. Like, stupidly love Bob's Burgers. Like, it's my go-to, just put on the telly if I need something that I just enjoy. But I love Bob's Burgers. And the women, so there's also the woman that voices Louise in the show, right? And at that point in time, I didn't realise that I hadn't watched Bob's Burger at that time, but she had a show on at the Fringe. And I just remember she came up to me, and she must have seen me just playing about with my pals, you know what I mean? And I picked one of them up and all this. And she comes over and she tapped me and she goes, could you do me a favour? And I was like, yeah, what's the matter? She went, can you put me in that cage? And I was like, what? And there was these giant, big, like decorative, like bird cages, right? Sturdy things, massive thing. And this, like, and it was like a special club bar for the venue. So it was it was like this car park that had been changed at this big club bar. It was secret. You had to have a pass to get in it and all this. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. So we figured that the cage came off. So I had to like pick her up, put her in the cage, and then put the cage over the top of her. And she spent about an hour just shouting abuse at people. She's been like, ah! And then shouting things at them, and they were like, why is she? And I was just like, that's. And I didn't leave her. I was like, I can't leave. And they went, how? I went, because I need to get her out of the cage. And I was like, all right. And then because I went to leave for the bathroom, and she was like, you can't go. I can't get out. And I was like, I'm just going for a pee. She was like, okay. Like, so yeah, there's loads. There's loads of weird ones like that. But yeah, she seen me pick somebody up. I think I must have just picked somebody up for like a fireman's carry, and she's like, that's the woman I need. That's who I need in my life. Come here. And I was like, okay. Then I watched Bob's Burgers, and then I was like, oh my God, that's her. That's her. She's my favourite. Like,
I put her in a cage.
I put her like I literally put her in a bird cage.
As you do.
But yeah, she's it. There's so many people that I've met that she's in, but I totally like. I didn't even, when you said about that, I instantly thought of fighting with Paul Daniels. Then I thought, oh wait, there was John Malkovich. Oh wait, no, there's a lot. There's a lot that I've done. Like at the Fringe, I would like if I tell some of the stories, you're like, why would you do that? But like, I 100%, if I have kids and at their teenage, like when they're allowed to go, when they're like maybe 20, I'll just be like, you need to go and be at the Fringe in August, because that's where you like all your mad stories is going to come from the Fringe. Like your lifetime, you tell this story at a party and all this will happen there. Go experience it. Go have fun. It's utter carnage and chaos.
And you won't get a Paul Daniels story to tell.
Well, can he now? Can you?
That is brilliant, though. That is brilliant.
But you'll get them, like, and I was just, as I was saying, like, I was just there helping. I wasn't even in a show, but I've ended up like, you just end up. It's just this, like, Edinburgh disappears for a month, and it becomes the Fringe. Like August doesn't exist in Edinburgh. Like Edinburgh exists from September to the end to July, and then it's gone. It becomes the Fringe. But yeah, it's just, yeah, I very much enjoy it. I very much would highly say to anybody, just like get yourself like a flyering gig. You'll make some lifelong pals from all over the world, and you're going to get some mad stories, and you're going to learn a few things, but you will have an absolute blast at the same time.
Fantastic. My missus was stuck in the car with me recently. I listened to Rabin Grado every Friday. And one of the recent conversations was wrestling gear and the cost of wrestling gear. My missus walked into the house this afternoon as I'm watching you and Anastasia do your thing. And I'd said to her, this is the, and she's heard it a million times over the last week, this is the woman we're going to be speaking to next week. And she's like, oh, the woman in green. So, and she's dying to know, how much does your wrestling singlet cost you?
How much did that one? So that was the singlet and the knee pads. I think that one all came into, it was about $290.
Right.
With a, but it's, you do end up, like, there's going to be places that are cheaper, but sometimes at the end of the day, like, that's my bread and butter. If I look,
that's your brand.
Yeah, like, if I look boring, if I look like a bag of spuds, that's no good. I very much, like, I know I've got an odd body. Like, I've got a longer torso than I do. Like although it doesn't look like it, like I know just in clothing. And I know every woman has the same problems with getting clothing to fit them, because there's not like a general this is a woman's size thing. I don't think that happens with anybody, men and women. But I think women, we get it tougher because we can be a size 10 in one shop and a size 20 in another shop on the same item of clothing, and you're like, how? But that's just how it is. But yeah, that's what my singlet was. But my singlet was made by someone who does, like, she makes a lot of like panto costumes, and she's done, like, there was one night she was working and dressing Katy Perry on a tour kind of thing. So women I've went to is a certain sort of clientele. Like, I've had that singlet since I did my show at Ring of Honor. I'm actually Ring of Honor, and it still is bright and shiny as it was for the day I got it.
Do the
So
leaves
that,
have
to
a
me,
significance?
Poison Ivy.
Right.
So I love Poison Ivy and Batman. Batman, we always joke that I'm the Poison Ivy to Casey's Harley Quinn.
Got you.
So that has its effect. But the fact that it's green and gold is because of Rogue from the X-Men, which obviously explains the hair on my head as well. So the majority of stuff I have all have nods to characters and stuff that I've been drawn to throughout the years. So that's what the leaves signify. But yeah, there's a lot of things. Like I'm actually in the process of getting new gear made too.
Nice.
But yeah, that's again, it's a proper long process. It's designing, making it, and fittings, etc. So there are places you can get cheaper ones made, but it all depends on if you want something. Like, I think there was something like Ric Flair's robes cost them thousands because of how much work and detail there was in it. But can you forget what Ric Flair looks like?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
There's sometimes a reason why. Like, there's only a few people that can get I genuinely think you need to be like, there's two things that I say. If your gear is boring, you have to be the best wrestler. If your gear is boring or you're an arsehole, you need to be the best wrestler in the world to get away with it. Because let's look at it this way. Daniel Bryan's gear used to be boring, but he was the best thing going in the ring. And Shawn Michaels was the biggest arsehole in the world for a long time, but he was the best thing in the ring, right? If there are the things, that's what you need to step up to. And I'm not saying, like, I'm not going to be here saying that I'm the best, but my gear looks decent, and I at least look like I am of value. Like, you're going to at least go, she looks the part, she looks good, she looks like she's invested in herself, therefore I will invest time in watching this. Although you might not think, I might not realize that's what you're doing, but yeah, if I come out and I don't look that great, you either think, like me, you look at my gear and what I'm wearing, and at least you can think, well, she's not new, because it's not just plain kind of gear. She's clearly got a bit of experience under. She clearly invests a bit of money in herself. Therefore, you invest a bit of time into me, because you go, well, she looks the part. I mean, I understand there's a lot of people that their first gear isn't the most exciting, but that's fine, because that's your first gear. That's you getting your marks under your feet, your road miles under you. But then you invest in something a bit more sturdy, or it costs a bit more and things like that. Like, for some reason it feels like the more experience you get, the more expensive your gear becomes.
Aye. I thought Anastasia cut a decent promo on you, basically saying Molly wasn't going to throw you a boot. She's obviously a sturdy girl as well. And you wonder just going to get
5'10" she is.
Really?
She's a big girl. She's a big Amazon-like woman.
I'm a 9.5. It's like, oh, okay. But she was giving it she's going to find it very difficult to throw me about the ring the way she does. And you basically come back saying, you're obviously, as far as you're concerned, the uncrowned ICW women's champion, and you will humble Anastasia. And you did. But you were very giving there, I thought. You took a fair few bumps and you made her look really good.
She's 5'10" and roughly about my size. I know she's not Angel Hayes. Again, I give this, Angel Hayes is an incredible talent. I'm like, I love that people think that I just overlook her because she's weak. No, I know she's an incredible talent. That's why she gets my attention.
Yeah.
If you are getting my attention, that means you're good enough, because why would I bother with people that aren't going to elevate me?
Yeah.
There's no point in that in wrestling. There's absolutely no point. But again, Anastasia is an up-and-comer. She has all the attributes that can make her incredible and so dominating, but she doesn't quite know her place yet. She has to learn that to really be able to escalate. But she'll get it. She'll get there. She will, if it means I need to beat it into her a few times. But yeah, I know she is a very dominating, and there's a lot of similarities with us when it comes to our size and our stature, etc. That I don't overlook that. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that she can take me down, but believe you me, that was no easy task for her in any way or form. And it was, and if you look at it this way, I think I took her down a few times as well. It was I feel like it was a very back and forth match, but at the end of the day, I came out victorious because I know my place, and I have and always have a plan. Now,
let's get on to your being victorious, because I'm sure you've watched it back, and I'm not sure you were aware of it at the time. You were currently outside taking a breather, as you're quite entitled to do. The mystery figure appears out of nowhere, the one you can't get rid of, up to the top rope, hits Anastasia with the double knees, comes out, helps you back to your feet. Lo and behold, Molly's got the win. What's next for Casey Owens and Molly Spartan?
I mean, when it comes to being Casey Owens, as you say, she is the one that I can't get rid of. And I don't want to get rid of.
Why would you?
That woman was in my first ever match, which was a tag match. She was in my first ever singles match. She's been there from the very beginning of Molly Spartan. And a lot of people maybe up here aren't aware of the SheWolves, but believe you me, down south is a very different deal. We have run an absolute muck in TNT in Liverpool. Been there for 3 years now. Their women's division has completely changed. And I mean completely. It went from our first show having one woman with us in the back to the last show we were at having 9 different girls backstage with 2 matches and a segment with fully women. And it's not because we're women. It's because we are who people want to see. We have managed to make that roster down south prestigious. It's where girls want to work because they know they'll be listened to, they know they'll be respected, and they know that they'll be treated as wrestlers and performers. And it doesn't matter what's between their legs. And that's exactly what we're going to do in ICW, and that's exactly what is needed in ICW. And I repeatedly, and I'm going to have to say this time and time again, this is absolutely nothing to do with the girls themselves. This is not personal with them. And they can feel like it's personal. Of course, they're going to feel like it's personal because it's coming at them. They're the ones that are getting beaten up. They're the ones that are having to go for long salty baths and soak their wounds, but we're here to change things. As a She-Wolves in selection, that's what's happening. That's what's going to happen, and there is going to be a massive change. And you know what? I might knock a few years of a few girls' careers, but believe you me, by the time we are done, by the time that we achieve exactly what we're out to achieve, it's going to be in a much better place for them to work in than it was before.
Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it.
And you can't wait to see it because it's going to be marvellous.
Definitely.
It's going to be violent. It's going to be horrendous for a wee while as well.
Casey Owens, she's been at the start of your in-ring wrestling journey. Is there a level of comfort when you're working with somebody like Casey? Like you've teamed with her, you've faced off against her many times. Mm-hmm. I was just wondering, is there that level of comfort compared to someone that you've never met?
You look back on the Attitude Era, it's probably one of the best times to look at it. And look at all the great tag teams and factions of that time. You've got your Hardy Boys, your Dudley Boys, your Edge and Christians, DX, the APA. Like, I could go on and on and on and on with names after names. And the things that made them great, the things that made them Hall of Famers for those parts of their career alone, never mind all their singles career, was the fact that it was real. They were friends, brothers. They had gone through so much. They had been by each other's side for the entire time. Like, Casey Owens has been by my side, has been an integral part of my wrestling career from day one. So that is one of the most genuine things. She is genuinely my best mate, not wrestling best friends and we've been put together and put in a nice tag team. We are genuinely best mates. She was the maid of honor at my wedding.
No, you can't
she is the witness on my wedding certificate. Right. That's real. And that, I think, shines through the screen. Like, the reason why you loved DX was because you knew Shawn and Triple H were best mates. And they were a great team. But you never took away the fact that they were also great singles competitors. And that's how I see me and Casey. Like, separately, we can handle our business. We can be there for each other. And in the ring, we can 100% hang on our own. But together, that's when things get really interesting because it's two heads are better than one. When she might have a certain way of going for an attack, there's me that goes, but what about this? And that's the real thing. And that's why we are so integral to each other. And yeah, there's a comfort, but that comfort isn't like all nice and warm and cozy. That's a trust and a loyalty that no other can really explain. Like, because in wrestling, it's a lot of everyone for themselves, but it doesn't have to be that way. If you can genuinely find that person that wants the same thing as you do, but you don't hold each other back ever. You just elevate each other, and in turn, you end up helping one another out.
Yeah, that does make definitely.
Who wins in a fight to the death? Is it Chuck Norris or John McClane?
I will not answer that because that is my question. Do not try and steal my paddle, John. You're never going to be as good at me at the whole paddle game, John. So don't try and steal my paddle. That is an old thing. That's a question for my interviewing days rather than being interviewee.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am not answering that question. I think the best answer I ever got for it was, how dirty is John McClane's vest?
Yep, I've heard that. Well, I'm going full. My favourite Die Hard is Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Right.
So it's the one with Samuel L. Jackson and they've got to do the trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
and he's got a shirt on for quite a bit of the film. Then obviously eventually the shirt gets lost and the vest's pure rotten, but so the answer in that film would probably be no overly manky, but towards the end, the usual, you could never tell it was a white vest. So I've heard you say that question has started fights.
Oh yeah. I remember it was a festival I did, and I just constantly said it to bands, and it would start fights between bands, and it was great because they'd be so serious for so long, and then I'd do that, and then everything would get cast aside, and they'd be like, right, and then somebody would say an answer, and they'd be like, no, and that would start fights. It was great.
It's either
always
way,
causing trouble, always have.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, I think it's possibly about time to wrap it up. Thank you very much for your time. You have been more than generous.
No problem.
If folk want to get ahead of Molly Spartan, where can they do it?
I'm very easy to find. I am Molly Spartan on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I am Real Molly Spartan on Facebook. But yeah, basically you can Google Molly Spartan and you'll find me. My Big Cartel store is on both my Twitter and my Instagram. You'll be able to find it, and the SheWolf merch is available there as well. Bleached tie-dye shirts are still available, so your shirt will be unique to you if you purchase one.
Fantastic, we need it. You'll get us on Twitter, search the Pro Wrestling Journey. It's at the pro_WJ. But I shall let you go and say thank you very much again for your time. I shall get to the live show. I shall hopefully bring you a wee present from up north.
Good.
Thanks for keeping us entertained.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Cheers. Well, travellers, we've finally reached the destination for this stage of the Pro Wrestling Journey. On behalf of me and Big Sean, we'd like to thank Molly Spartan for being more than generous with her time. I think we can all agree we have learned a fair bit about the beautiful Bruiser, from her smash mouth wrestling style and origins inside the ring to her absolutely commendable charity work outside the ring. Tune in next week for the next special guest. On the subject of the next special guest, travellers, I'm sure you're all dying to know who it is, so I will keep you in suspense no longer. Who better to follow Molly Spartan than her tag team partner in the SheWolves, the Queen of Knees, the Mother of Chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than Casey Owens. So tune in next week to see what Casey's got to say. We learn about her origin story. We mess a bit with Sean for a wee bit. So believe me, folks, it's worth listening to just for that. We'll see you next time, guys.